agenda that includes tariffs.
With strong tariffs.
It's like a 10% tariff.
Tariffs or other things.
The imposition of tariffs.
I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word.
Imagine walking into your favorite store and seeing the prices of everyday items like phones, cars, or even groceries shoot up overnight. Now picture a world where US farmers are left with piles of unsold crops while manufacturers struggle with skyrocketing costs. This isn't a dystopian movie, but a potential fallout of tariff policies, with President-elect Donald Trump threatening sweeping tariffs on imports from China and other countries.
Under Donald Trump. On Sunday, the president-elect gave his first major interview since winning last month's election. Speaking to NBC News, he reiterated his key campaign pledges, including the imposition of tariffs on all imports from America's biggest trading partners.
I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich.
US is on a crossroads. In today's video, we will explore how these tariffs would reshape the US economy using the real-world examples, data comparisons, and forecasts that you don't want to miss. So stay with me. To begin, let's clarify what tariffs are. Tariffs are taxes or duties imposed by a government on the imported goods.
Tariffs essentially are a tax on imports.
Let's break it down. Imagine you go into a store to buy a pack of socks. Chances are they were made somewhere else, like China. That's because between low labor costs and efficient shipping, it's just cheaper to make it overseas. But what if we want this product in front of us to be made in America? The government can put a tax called a tariff on shipments of Chinese-made socks, making it more expensive for the companies buying them.
Potentially introduced to protect the domestic industry from foreign competition, generate revenue, or retaliate against unfair trade practices. But what happens when the world's largest economy, the United States of America, imposes tariffs on imports? Let's break it down. Before we move forward, please do consider subscribing to this channel if the subjects of business, finance, and economy are of interest to you. In the short term, tariffs can create both winners and losers within the US economy. Here are some key impacts. 1. Protecting domestic industries. Tariffs make imported goods more expensive, encouraging consumers to buy domestic alternatives. This can temporarily boost sectors like steel, aluminium, or agriculture, where tariffs are often applied.
These weren't the only tariffs Trump created in 2018. The big ones were on
Steel and aluminum.
Second, higher consumer prices. On the flip side, tariffs lead to higher costs for the consumers. For example, tariffs on electronics can increase the prices of laptops, smartphones, and televisions. This creates inflationary pressures.
Let's start in 2018, when President Trump put tariffs on
Washing machines. We're going to benefit our consumers, and we're going to create a lot of jobs.
Since then, whenever a washing machine is imported to the US, the company on the US side doing the importing pays a tariff to the US government.
Their margins are pretty low. They've got to pass that price on to consumers who ultimately pay it.
Third is retaliatory measures. When the US imposes tariffs, these trading partners often respond with tariffs of their own, targeting the US exports. This can hurt industries like agriculture or manufacturing that rely heavily on exports.
We should talk about the chicken war. In post-World War II West Germany, people started eating a lot of chicken, specifically American chicken. Midway through 1962, U.S. farmers were on track to sell more than $50 million worth, $500 million in today's money. This made European farmers mad, so the organization that later became the European Union put a tariff on chicken. A 5-pound chicken that started as $1.60 became $2.25. Imports quickly dropped. U.S. chicken farmers and politicians were furious. So the U.S. put a 25% tariff on trucks, like Germany's Volkswagen. And it worked. Their truck sales in the US fell by half, and they never really recovered. Meanwhile, Germans paid more for their chicken, and Americans had fewer truck options. It's kind of a perfect example of what tariffs do: hurt consumers while protecting very specific industries, or attempt to get countries to change their behavior.
While the short-term effects can be mixed, the long-term consequences are often more significant. Number 1, the economic growth. Higher tariffs can disrupt the supply chains and reduce trade efficiency. Over time, this leads to slower economic growth. According to studies by Congress's Budget Office, tariffs imposed during recent trade wars reduced US GDP by about 0.3%. Second aspect is competitiveness. By raising input costs for US businesses, tariffs can make American products less competitive globally. For example, higher steel prices due to tariffs increase costs for industries like automotive and construction. Third is investor sentiment. Persistent trade tensions and tariffs create uncertainty in the markets, discouraging the investment. This is especially true for industries which are heavily reliant on global supply chains. Hopefully, you would have subscribed to the channel by now. If not, please do consider. Let's dive deeper into how tariffs have adversely impacted US markets and the economy. Steel and aluminum tariffs of 2018. The Trump administration's tariffs on steel and aluminum imports initially provided relief to the US producers. However, they drove up the cost of industries which are dependent on these materials, such as automotive and construction. According to estimates, these tariffs increased the input cost of the US manufacturing sectors by billions of dollars annually. Now, if we consider the trade war with China, it was characterized by the tariffs on $360 billion worth of goods, had significant repercussions. For example, US agricultural exports to China, particularly soybeans, plummeted by over 50% in 2018. This led to $28 billion federal aid package to support the affected farmers. The third is consumer goods inflation. Tariffs on consumer goods, electronics, and appliances directly impacted household budgets. A 25% tariff on washing machines led to an average price hike of $86 per unit in 2018, as per a study by University of Chicago. While tariffs have their downside, some argue that this could be beneficial under certain circumstances. National security. Tariffs can reduce the dependence on the foreign nations for critical goods such as semiconductors or pharmaceuticals. The second element is trade leverage. They serve as negotiation tool to secure better trade agreement. For instance, US-Mexico-Canada agreement was partly influenced by the tariff threats. However, the overall consensus amongst the economists is that the costs often outweigh the benefits. So what's next for the US tariffs and the economy? With the Biden administration, we have seen a more measured approach to tariffs compared with the previous administration of Donald Trump. However, the trade tensions with China remain a major concern. Any significant tariff escalation can slow down the economy, could slow economic recovery, especially in the post-pandemic world. In conclusion, tariffs are a double-edged sword. While they can protect the domestic industries and strengthen trade negotiations, they also lead to higher consumer prices, slower growth, and strained international relations. It's a balancing act that requires a careful consideration. If you have found this video interesting, give it a thumbs up, share it with others who are curious about economics and policy. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Be inspired, keep building.